Oh, so good, mate. Welcome to the arm wrestle, Jake Goodship.
Thanks, Ross. Thanks for having me.
So, take us back to where it all started, back in Ireland.
Yeah, so obviously not a lot of people know, but born in Ireland, in Derry or Londonderry. Depends on political parties and religions, I suppose. So
Is that north or south?
North, right at the top. Right at the top in Northern Ireland. Dad was in the army, so born in a camp there, dealing with all the chaos and the riots between, bombs and things like that. So lucky enough to, I suppose, at 18 months, relocate to the UK into England. Got the helicopter across, and that was that. So fantastic to be born in Derry or Londonderry, but it's also nice to be raised in a safer upbringing in England.
When you say a chopper, was it obviously dangerous to be there at the time? Or?
Yeah, it's one of them choppers that obviously no doors. So you're hanging in there. My mum was holding me as a baby. There's some photos of me. Mum strapped in. I'm just in her arms, and away we go across the ocean and like that. So it's one of them army choppers that it's incredible. I'd love to be on one now, but
So they just dropped you and the family across with what possessions you had.
Relocated back to another army camp in Gatwick Harrison, which is Yorkshire. Stayed there for a few years, and I say a few years, probably to about 5 years old.
Yeah.
And then relocated to where my family were near Luton, just outside of London.
Oh, Luton. They got a football team there, don't they? Luton Town, is it?
Luton Town. Depends who you speak to. Best club in England. Family club, community club. So, it's one I go for as well.
How good's that? They were just... Did they get promoted and then demoted? I'm not taking the piss, mate. You know more about me than the game.
Unfortunately, they got promoted. It was a massive story getting promoted. The stadium only held, I think, 9,000 capacity. Smallest stadium, smallest budget. Transfers and player values were incredibly low. So, a great story. Got relegated, and they started off the season poorly in the championship. So I don't think they've won a game yet, and it's 4 games in, so it's not looking too good.
I think I saw, was that where the exterior staircase was backing onto one of the houses?
You'd like that.
Yeah.
Could try and sell one of them houses.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The dollar value went up very quickly and then subsided when they went down. But
And the tenants and the owners are actually complaining about the noise and about the people having to walk through, but they bought a house with the stadium already, like the stadium's always
fully
been there.
Fully knowing that, yeah.
But it's some experience. You go through their back garden, you see the laundry, you can see them in their kitchen, their living room, and it's quite an interesting walk to a stadium.
So when did you start playing football, like when you're in Luton?
Yeah, so probably about 6 years old, 7 years old. There's a local club there called Shepherd Saints. My mum was actually chairperson, so she's ran a football club. Football was everything I knew from my upbringing. So it's local football club. I used to go around on my BMX, and literally only child, had stepbrothers, but only child. Go on my BMX and see what kids are around the neighbourhood, and I'd constantly do laps to see, on my bike with my boot bag, can I come and play? Come and play. Yeah. Football's everything I knew. So from 6 years old onwards.
How good's that?
It's incredible, mate. What a sport. What a thing to do. And play.
It's sort of like basketball in the US, isn't it? You pretty much need your sneakers, a basketball. It's like that with football. You need your football boots and a football.
It brings everyone together, mate. It brings all different backgrounds, ages together. For me personally, my biggest memory from that was not just my BMX, but playing with kids 10 years older. So I was 7, 8, 9, playing with 15, 16, 17-year-olds in this park. And, it was the era I grew up in wasn't the nicest. That depends on the result and how the game went. You often get chased off the pitch, chased off the field, and you have to run back home to mum and dad.
At what age was that?
About 7, 8, 9.
7, 8, 9?
I had a park at the end of my street, Digswell Park. And, it wasn't probably the safest place in all fairness, but I'd always end up there and go down my own and end up playing football. And depends on who you're playing with. Had to run and escape, or you just enjoyed it and played until dark.
Well, there was no mobile phones back then to say, come and pick us up. They're coming for us.
No, it was brilliant. It's just dusk went down. As soon as it got dark, street lamps turned on, away you go and back home.
So you're obviously at school, like a primary school sort of set up back there?
Yeah, so my mum didn't feel comfortable sending me to the local school for what, again, probably the similar reasons. We had to travel to, well, I suppose like next town, a couple of towns away to a local junior school. It was a religious school. Hated it.
Catholic or
Catholic? Yeah. Ran into trouble. Getting into trouble wasn't really for me. I went from that school to one of my local schools, which I was, buzzing about. I made friends and that connection in that local town I grew up in. So I was thankful for that, I suppose.
Yeah. And then so sort of you went from there, and did you finish high school there?
Yeah, so we're in England, we have like a junior school, middle school and an upper school. So after my middle school, I went to the local upper school, which is now, it was a college at the time. They've renamed it as Academy to make it try and sound a lot nicer than what it is. Rough school, often in trouble, police are there, drugs, knife crime. Finished there and I went to a college with football. Finished school when I was like 17.
Yeah, wow. And then, so you were discussing earlier, so you went from the UK, fast forward to the US?
Yeah.
Was there anything in between that sort of period of?
So in between that, finished playing, got released when I was 18 from Stevenage, and my dad was...
When you say released, that was a local team?
That was a professional club.
Professional club, sorry.
So I was full-time from 15 at that club. Last year at school, in high school, 16, 17, went away to Italy, did pre-season camps, played reserves, played pre-season games with the first team. I say games, probably about 3 games.
How professional was that back then?
They were excellent. They were in the conference at the time. Fantastic facilities. A few professional. Their players were full-time in the first team. We had the reserve coach was Lionel Perez,
yes,
who used to play for Sunderland.
Oh, wow.
The old famous lob, I think David Ginola or Eric Carrington and I did an unbelievable, I scored an unbelievable goal against him, and it's an infamous lob, little dink over. He was a reserve coach. So it was fantastic being full-time, but finished and got released from there after a fallout in pre-season. In Italy, fell out with the academy director, who's one of my biggest role models and family friends as well.
At the time?
Yeah. So he maybe 14, went to a random back to the local football club for a training session. He was taking it. After the training session, he just pulled me aside. He's like, look, I'm going to one of these 2 clubs. I've got 2 offers on the table, Stevenage or Tottenham Hotspur. And unfortunately for me, he went to Stevenage, took me to Stevenage with him, and I was there for 3-4 years, and it ended up quite nasty, the fallout in Italy abroad. So I still, he's doing very well now. He's a head coach in League One at the moment. So, but from then, my family was supportive and basically said, do you want to go to uni? What do you want to do? You need to get education, you need to get studies. Where do you see yourself?
So what were you then, sort of early 20s or?
I was 18.
18, yeah,
18,
right.
so...
You've been playing...
That's all I've done.
Yeah.
18, so I got released. I went to another club below that, went out on loan a few times, but I was also looking to earn money. And one of the senior players at this club called Cambridge took me under his wing and said, look, there's a Royal Mail postman job. Work in the mornings, train at night, fits a lot of footballers, a lot of young players, and a lot of players get into this. I ended up doing that for a few months, and then my dad was like, what do you really want to do? I was like, I want to coach, I want to work in football. What do you mean? What do I want? I don't want to work in a bank, I don't want to work anywhere else. And ended up going to America, got a job over there, and he supported me, bought my ticket.
Whereabouts in America?
New York. Or Newark, just outside.
Yeah, wow.
New Jersey, New York border. Just where New York Red Bulls is. There's a nice little suburb called Livingston.
So was the MLS, was that?
Yeah, that was just launching,
Just
really.
launching, yeah, okay.
So New York Red Bulls, Thierry Henry may have played there then, off the top of my head. It was Red Bull Arena. They had no academy system now. I was working for a local or renowned academy, like a local academy there, not a professional club, to gain experience, to gain life experience. Because if I wasn't going to uni, my dad thought it was best to go overseas and gain life experience on my own, live on my own, fend for myself, cook for myself. And it was a top experience for about 6 months of my life.
So 6 months, and then after that, where did you go from there?
Yeah, came to Australia. So we had an offer. My ex partner at the time was in England, and we made a decision to come to Australia. I reached out to a few clubs in and around Brisbane and Sydney. Brisbane City got back.
How did you put Brisbane and Sydney on your sort of hit list? Where did that come from?
Main cities. Obviously,
yeah.
Sydney and Melbourne at the time being the sporting capitals of, if you like, Australia. Brisbane having the lifestyle and the weather and the.
You didn't know anyone in Brisbane?
No.
So
we came over literally on a promise of a job at Brisbane City. We brought one suitcase each. Had no intention of staying here. We felt it would be a good experience for a year, maybe 2 years, depending on the visas. We had to work obviously wanted to extend, you had to work on a farm. But yeah, after a year, Brisbane City basically offered the opportunity of a lifetime and agreed to sponsor us. So yeah, we were luckily and thankful to Brisbane City Football Club to put us on a visa and become residents, and now thankfully an Australian citizen.
Yeah, right, there you go. And did you when you came back to Brisbane, did you play as well, or were you just coaching?
Yeah, so I was playing in around, I was 21 at this time, maybe 2021. In around at Scilly, in around at Grange, Newmarket,
And now a guy called Danny Cody, did you? Or famous local goalkeeper?
The Australian Gordon Banks. Yeah, I played with Danny a few seasons. We've had some good discussions and played in some top teams together, and unfortunately haven't won many things. Being at Grange Thistle at the time, we were towards the bottom of the table, I think. But yeah, it was excellent.
But it's just the camaraderie. That's what I've always seen when it comes to football. Like, you get guys playing over 35s, over 40s. They just love it. They just love the sport. They go down there and support the local team.
Yeah.
It just seems to have something about it, whereas a lot of these other sports, people still watch it, but they don't play it 30, 35, 40. I know it's only social, but they just can't stop playing.
It's hard to describe, because in football, it's the change room atmosphere. It's the camaraderie amongst everyone. It's the mate and friendship. It's the banter, if you like, around that. And itchy feet as well, and being competitive. Every player is competitive, and being in an environment or amongst others that have the same passion. It's incredible. Even now, I'd go and watch Jabsy at over 35.
Yeah, over 35s, yeah.
Just go and watch just because of that. You might have a beer, you might have a drink, and kids are running in the park, and you're just watching a game that means absolutely nothing, but you're just attracted to it.
I've got a mate down the coast who just turned 40, and he's playing for whatever it is, over 35s or 40s down the Gold Coast, and 6-0 they lost the other night. He got red carded, and he just said he can't give it up. It's the one thing he really, really looks forward to every week. So
no, I think you always hear the stories, keep playing until you can't anymore, because you'll miss it. It's one of those things that once it's gone, it's gone. And you got the other aspect of it where you hear the horror stories about mental health and things like that, where professional footballers or athletes, I suppose, do give it up and they struggle to adapt after that. So
yeah,
it's one of those things.
So recently engaged?
Yeah, to gorgeous partner Alex Arndra.
Yes. Congratulations to you both. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, mate.
You broadcast the whole thing live on Instagram, basically.
She's lucky, isn't she?
Hamilton Island, shirts off, beers.
Shirts off, beers. We actually went on a trek. We had flip-flops on, we had beers, we had a lunchbox full of beers. We didn't know how long the trek was or how difficult and rocky it was. So we had people walking past us in proper hiking boots and backpacks and sticks. And there's us with our shirt off, shorts, flip-flops, thongs.
Trying to carry a ring in your pocket. Yeah.
It was in my pocket for 2 days.
Nervous?
Extremely.
Yeah.
I actually asked her dad for permission a few months beforehand, and that was probably the most nervous I've ever been, and I'm not scared, because I wanted to do him proud and his mum, her mum and dad, and make sure it was the right thing to do. And it wasn't planned. I was actually planning for the day after, and we're on this secluded beach on top of this rock, about to jump off the rocks into the ocean and be a little rock jumping. And I thought, far out, how good is this? There's no one else around. Checked my pocket on top of this rock, and she went to climb. I just tapped on the back, put on one knee, and yeah, I think I've got the scars on my knee to show for it, all the cuts and bruises, but it was definitely worthwhile.
How good's that? And also nervous about losing the ring as well?
Yeah, that's money I wouldn't get back. And I was always checking my pockets, tapping my pockets.
Yeah.
From the first day to I think this was the third day, obviously changed my swim shorts as well.
Yeah.
So always making sure I had it with me without her realising. So it was a tricky one.
A great story. And then 2 kids?
Yeah, I've got Harper, 8 years old. and Bella, who's beautiful, is 3 years old. And grateful for having such a lucky and beautiful family.
Yep. And they Harper plays down at Brisbane City as well.
Yeah, Brisbane City, it's a common theme. I'm so thankful for a club that gave me this opportunity to be Australian resident, Australian citizen, but also my family. But it's nice to see I'm working there myself and been there for a number of years, to Harper playing there, to hopefully Bella playing there. If Alex is listening to this, Bella hopefully playing on the Brisbane City shirt as well, and having that community around and family and friendship around there is second to none.
Well, the female team just won the whole competition, didn't they?
Yeah. I think we've got the best female team in the state, almost close to Australia in the NPL level. We've got a couple of coaches, Leo and Dave De Silva and Dante, who are running the show in the female space and doing a top job. Yeah,
it's a great sport, and obviously with the the women's team being so successful, it's brought even more women to the sport as well.
And it's good to see. It's healthy, and we're trying to get that 50-50 parity at the club as well, to try and be more inclusive to females within sport.
How many teams, for example, like under 10s or under 12s, would they have for each male and female?
At the moment, it's probably 70-30, 70% male, 30% female. We have, I'd say, around 9 female-only teams at the club at the moment, looking to grow that to maybe 12, 15 next season, with a bit of a push and be really the club of choice for males and females.
Is it hard to find competition for the ladies that are obviously equal to try and...
It's always difficult. It's and then trying to keep them level-headed as well, because you obviously get really talented female players, and playing against females doesn't always get that competition and challenge out. So putting them in with the boys as well at times is tough. But playing against girls for girls, it's great for the sport. It's good camaraderie, and it is tough for the most talented players. Yeah.
And then you've also got the football co.
Yeah. So I've got the football company based in Albion, indoor facility, caters for 5 years old to 14 years old, male and female. I've got Tom Kenny, one of the best coaches in youth development, I'd say within Queensland, if not broader Australia. He runs it for me at the moment, and he does a fantastic job.
Well, it's also, you do birthday parties there. I went to my nephew's, I think it's his 7th birthday party there, and it was amazing. 20 boys having the time of their lives, separate area there with food and drinks and stuff. But it's good because a lot of kids these days, they're playing Xbox or PlayStation, but you need these kids to be active and running around and having a good time still.
Yeah, definitely. It's it's the place to be for parties. We fill them up with cake, some sugar, some drinks, and they're looked after by our staff, and the parents can sit back and relax and just sit in the air in the lounge.
Yeah.
But getting people outside the house is massive, and being in Brisbane where it's so hot during summer, in the shade as well, being weatherproof and weather safe, it's a good place to be.
And then you've got the gym there as well.
Yeah, culture gym. So we redeveloped the underground car park. It was basically a rundown car park, not used, almost abandoned, if you like. Set up a meeting with the building owner, and she loved the idea. And I think it got to the stage where now she didn't realise how good it would be, and the stage we're at. Currently, maybe 300 to 400 people come through a week to the gym.
So is that private personal training sessions?
Yeah, it's PT. It's a football performance studio. So we get a lot of young athletes, male and female, to older senior players. And we also get families. So when their kids are training upstairs, the mums and dads can be put for a class, a HIIT session, or a strength or strong session.
Oh, while the kids are training. Yeah. It's a great idea, yeah.
So it's good. So parents can be active and train at the same time, and be looked after by our qualified and experienced PTs.
How many PTs are running out of there?
Yeah, so we've got Bryce at the moment. He's fantastic. If if you're looking for a one-on-one session of PT session, Bryce is your man. But we've currently got about 5 at this stage, about 5 PTs that work from that space, and they're all fantastic.
Is it Gus? Gus does the training for the young footballers as well, as a PT?
Yeah, he does. No longer at the football company,
he's not,
unfortunately. He's spending more time with his family, but he's still involved in the gym, and runs a lot of players for their paces in the gym, and plans and divides football-only specific individual plans for players.
When do kids start, because obviously my nephew's playing, when do they start getting involved in some sort of strength and conditioning program?
Yeah.
What age?
So we've got Harry's here. He loves it. We have a bunch of his mates as well. So Harper and Harry, there's a group of about 10 of them from about 8 years old. Obviously introducing free weights or weights is limited. It's all about the technique and the balance and coordination of the young players. But they love it. And again, being active and promoting that healthy lifestyle and going away and they're proud of what they do and proud of perhaps, looking after themselves in that way is a good life skill.
Yeah, and when do they start teaching sort of nutrition and, sleep and rest and hydration, all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, well, we've seen being involved at City and whatnot, a lot more needs to be done. So at City, from 9 years old onwards, we hold workshops and conferences around parents and nutrition and trying to educate as much as we can. But it's also trying to influence by being good role models as well. If they see, they see the coaches or the older players walking around with McDonald's, they think it's the norm.
Yes.
So we try and embrace that lifestyle where role models can be seen to, a bottle of water, an apple, fruit, rather than a bag of chips and a hot dog post game or between games.
Yeah, that's cool. That's what I would just think from your background, turning professional so early. Obviously, you learn as a youngster how to adapt those, strength and conditioning, good nutrition, sleep and whatnot. So when did they actually start doing physical weights? Is there a certain age? Because I know with other sports, they will probably get into that sort of 10, 11.
Yeah. At the moment, it depends on their technique and where they're at. But yeah, we certainly have 10, 11-year-olds going through that. It's light weights. It's, getting the technique right for up overhead lifts with a broomstick, for example, until they're comfortable. But we certainly have Harper and Harry, I'll use an example, probably on about 5 kilos at the moment.
Yeah, right.
So they're busting out the bicep curls and checking themselves out in the mirror.
I'll have a chat to him later when he's on the podcast himself. But because I used to be a personal trainer in the day, and it's all about technique, as you know, because if you get that wrong at the start, these kids have got no chance, and it's all about strength and mobility.
And posture as well.
Posture,
it's brilliant for the kids.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot easier when you're sort of, even if you're coaching and doing personal training, stuff like that, your posture compared to when you sit at a desk. I've found that, I'm over this now, but you've constantly got to remind yourself to sort of lean back. So, yeah. So what we talk about technology in football, and I think you do a lot of video.
Yeah.
Do a lot of videos. Is it Vimco where you film it and whatnot?
Yeah, so we've got the platform that we use and the technology we got is called VO.
Sorry.
It's one of the softwares that we use and cameras. We set it up for training game day. We also use it for individual sessions and players, but also coach recruitment and going through recruiting coaches and job interview processes. It actually attracts, the ball, and AI attracts to the ball, and you can see and zoom in on individual players, units, and obviously team play. And it's a fantastic platform to share feedback to players and communicate with families, off site. So they can communicate and clip their own moments during the game. Coach can see that and respond via the same software. So it's a really good tool.
I'm seeing all these kids with their own Instagram accounts now, like 10-year-olds. It's pretty hard to keep up, and they're putting highlights up from these.
It's mad. But, I think, Harper's guilty of one. I think his mum set him up one. But as long as it's safe, as long as it's not attracting certain aspects and there's a bit of education around it, I think it's a bit of fun. The kids showing off some videos and highlights. It's what they're then showing is what's a principle for us. And, at City, in our DNA, we're trying to really influence a positive lifestyle and not, look at all the goals I scored, look how good I am. It's more of a, look at the effort, look at the commitment we displayed in this moment and team play and unity around that. So as long as they're showing those type of videos, I'm all for it.
Fine line, it's just tricky, but I definitely don't disagree. But that's what thing that I've loved watching my nephew and down at City, and the boys, all together. And it's not just who scores the goal, it's who set it up and, who's defending at the back. So
no, it's brilliant. It's I hope, lifelong friends, and you build friendships for life. And who knows in 10, 15, 20 years time, if they've still got that connection and friendship, and, if it can lead to all sorts of opportunities in life.
Well, that's the one thing you look at City as well, like the networking. It's unbelievable. Obviously, Matt's down at City every other day and he met someone else. And, in our business, they might be selling a house. Everyone can help each other out. It's the old Italian mentality, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a huge community. And I think, I think sport's the best for that. I met my accountant. I turned up to watch a 35's game, and there's an accountant playing, and he owns his firm, and we got introduced, and that was that. And I think sport, and in particular football, a team sport, whether it's watching mum, dad, family, children, it's the best way to network as well.
Yeah. And you said outside of football, what do you like to do? Obviously, it's pretty full on. If you get any time outside of football.
Yeah, I'm a bit sad. I'm a football tragic, but I do like, obviously, when I can, time with my family, bike rides if I can with my little one, walks with the dog, go to the beach and try and go to breaks where it gets me away from sport.
Where have you been in Australia?
Oh, so many places to go. Hamilton Island, obviously, laced, up and down the coast, Sydney, Melbourne. Place I'd love to go is the Great Barrier Reef. I haven't been out there yet, and that's probably a tick box to do, and something that I'd love to do. Perth as well. A lot of British there.
Perth, yeah. And another place, Tasmania. I haven't been there either, but it'd be beautiful. Yeah, it gets a lot of. Yeah, it's just a beautiful place, and
too cold, isn't it?
Oh, if you got the right time, mate, you're used to the cold anyway. But I was actually talking to someone yesterday, and she said, "Is there much crime around this area?" Yeah. I said, "There's crime everywhere, unfortunately." And she said, "Another real estate agent told me there's no crime on the east side." I'm like, "There's crime everywhere." And then she's from Tasmania, so I said, "Well, yeah, it's probably not as much sort of crime back there, but no, it's a beautiful place. But Australia's beautiful, and obviously you like the warm weather here too."
Yeah, it's a big factor, and personally getting away from the UK or from England, where it's obviously the weather's terrible, but that crime culture is huge, and having the opportunity to raise children in a safer environment and a place like this where if you forget to lock your car, it's fine. If you go out on the street, you're fine. You feel safe. So having that here is really, really, I'm really.
That's what you were saying before. When you were 8 years old, playing on a pitch and getting run off the pitch.
Yeah. So little things, and I remember playing in a game. I think I was 16 on loan to like a local club, and went to the bar after, as all the players do, had a feed. On our way home, we got jumped. Me and my friend, and his nose got bashed up and cuts everywhere, blood everywhere.
More than 2 people?
Yeah, I think there's about 5 or 6. Yeah. It was, his face, I had blood everywhere, and it's only 100 metres or so from where I lived at the time. It's at this Digswell Park that I grew up playing in. So it's got that renowned fear factor, I suppose, there, and renowned to be quite dangerous, if you like, but it's just the norm back there.
What was that second movie you were saying before to watch?
Top Boy.
Top Boy.
A great film about Netflix series about London and gangs in London, and how true and faithful that is to what it's like in London.
Is it still like that now, do you think?
Massive.
Really?
Yeah. It's worse. And being where I'm from, it's about half an hour drive from central London, and it's getting worse, obviously, with population growing there and infrastructure around it, not really allowing for much outdoor play. Kids are just getting up to mischief, and it's getting worse in terms of gangs or associate gangs or just troublemakers.
Is there a big divide between rich and poor there as well?
Yeah. In comparison to Brisbane, massively. I think there's, it all depends on what suburb or town or village you live in. But it's here. I'd say Brisbane's a bit more of a bigger divide,
really?
A more obvious divide. There's a lot more private schools, a lot more, the value of salaries are a lot higher here. Whereas the UK, it's generally quite low, and it's a smaller percentage that do go to private schools. Or I had no friends that went to private school. I don't know anyone that went to. Whereas here, I speak to anyone, and everyone pretty much goes to a private school.
Yeah, it's tricky now. Or has, yeah. We went to public schools back in the day. Jabsy and I, mate. So it's pretty funny. A lot of these people you meet now that you're doing quite well and whatnot. I actually had a few people thought that I went to a different school, Nudgee, which is on the north side. So it's all still very connected. Even at my age, people remember 20, 25 years ago which school you went to and the connections you made. And that's what you were saying before, Jake, about football, those connections you make, you might know them 25, 30 years later. I'm bumping into people now. I actually had a call from someone I used to play cricket with from the age of 9 to 16 looking to buy a property.
Oh, wow.
Another one last week that I grew up with from 5 to 18 it's like it's a pretty good feeling talking to these guys you're reconnecting with after sort of 10 years. So you'll always have that connection when you play sport with someone as a young person.
Yeah.
You might lose that connection for years, but I think what you're building, the whole club with City and these boys, you're turning these young boys into men.
Yeah, hopefully we're teaching them life skills that they can take away from off the field as well. We're very, very big on that and being a better person before the player. So if the better the person, the better the player, but also how they're away with their families, their sisters, their brothers, their siblings, their school teachers, their school friends, because it's always a reflection of the community they're from. And the bigger we grow that, then obviously the more attraction it is at City for sponsors, for people to come and watch games, for people to come and join up and register at the club. So it's a very big part of what we want to do.
It's you got that. Is it the ribs and pizza night? That's not really promoting healthy food, is it? Or is that just for the dads?
Pizza and ribs.
Sorry, pizza and ribs. Yeah, but that's been around there for 30 years.
Yeah, it's famous. It's if you ever get a chance, come down on a Friday night and enjoy a plate for ribs, and it's a generous plate of ribs, by the way, for I think $15, and yeah, it's a ton of ribs. They're incredible. Bit of salt on top, bit of I think lemon juice on top.
Yeah, right.
And the pizzas are homemade or handmade, and
who makes all the food there?
It's
volunteers.
You know what? Volunteers.
Yeah,
we do have some paid staff, but again, talk about the community. A lot of them are of Italian background that were at the club. Families are at the club, and it's young kids there, and it provides them an opportunity to earn a bit of pocket money. They give back to the club. It adds to the atmosphere and culture.
Yeah. And then locally, I know you said whenever it's your birthday, Alex drops you down to Green Beacon. That's your favourite watering hole?
Yeah, Green Beacon. Just around the corner. I think I love it. I think my favourite beer there is the Lager Grappler.
Yeah, the Grappler, yeah.
I used to call it, I used to have a green can with a tank on it. So I just gravitated that because my dad being in the army, I was like, I'll try that beer. And ever since then, it's my favourite beer. And as a treat, I go there every year. But I also get a slab delivered to my house from my parents.
Oh, wow.
So it's always a nice surprise.
Are they overseas still?
Yeah.
And they deliver a Green Beacon slab of...
They put an order in every year.
Yeah, right. Wow.
It started off actually in COVID, and we were all in lockdown, and my birthday, obviously couldn't go out that time. I had a box of this Grappler Lager. I was like, who got this? No message, no card. I drank them anyway, and I found out a few weeks ago it was actually from my parents. So that's been my favourite beer and favourite place to go. It's a shout out to Green Beacon.
Man, I know a lot of the boys' dads try and bribe you, so don't be surprised if you go home tomorrow after they listen to it and you've got 30 different Grappler cartons randomly saying "Pick my son in the first."
No bribes, but I'll take a beer.
Yeah, he'll still take it. He'll drink it and just ignore who it is. So yeah. And what about local? Like, do you take Alex out too?
Yeah. So Alex and I, there's for us, if you're local to the area in Brisbane and Ascot, in Albion and New Farm, there's a place called Fons the Abbot.
Oh, yes, yes.
Just off Crosby Street. The owner Dan there, coffees, breakfast, the best coffees, the best food, and beers as well. They do their own brewery. If you're looking for a place for a feed, looking for a date night, or you're looking to take the family for a breakfast or just a coffee, grab a coffee to go, Fons the Abbot is definitely the place to be seen.
There you go. And what's next for you, Jake? Obviously, mid-30s now. What's next for the next sort of 5 years, professionally and personally?
Yeah, I'm glad you said mid-30s, not late 30s.
No, mid-30s. No.
I'll take that. Yeah, personally, my family are very happy where they are. I'm grateful for what we're doing and the friendships and connections we've got. For me, it's more about being grounded and allowing our children to grow up in a safe environment and a place where they excel. School, making sure they're in a safe school and a proactive school, but also making sure Alex is happy with her work. So being at City, I hope for a number of years and growing a role there at the club where, potentially it grows to become a bit more challenging in the role where you can oversee more aspects, but give back to the club more so. And see ourselves settled here for the next 5 to 10 years. Yeah,
and then obviously we haven't set a wedding date yet.
No. I'll leave that to Alex to planning. Yeah. I'm sure she's gone over it many times like most people, but hopefully it's I'd say earlier the better. I'm slowly putting weight on, so I'm getting to that age.
It does start hitting you. Not that I know, but it's good, mate. It seems you're really entrenched into that lifestyle, and it's also that inner north circle. You've obviously got all your work in that little area.
Yeah, it's,
Good kids, good schools. You can't really go wrong. And there's so much love at that club that people just look after each other.
yeah, definitely. And like I said, I think it's a family for life. People talk to me about what clubs you go. Like, City feels like my club. You know, they gave me the opportunity to come to Australia. They gave me a visa. I'm a resident citizen now because of Brisbane City, and I hope that it has the impact on many families as well as mine. That people do start, coming back to the club or come into the city to try football or try the pizza and ribs and connect and make friends and families for life.
You think more kids are playing football than AFL and rugby league and rugby union now than there were sort of 3-5 years ago?
Oh, definitely. I think the World Cup and the female World Cup as well, hosting that in Australia was a big boost. But I also think that Football Queensland and Football Australia have done a good job to make it inclusive for all players to access the game. And clubs, a lot of clubs are really sort of adding resources and investing in providing education for footballers. So I definitely see a growth in the junior participation levels, yeah.
Yeah. One thing I do have, you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but why is the Aussie male team a lot, weaker than, say, the female, or why have they struggled the last few years? Was it a bit of a dynasty they had 10, 15 years ago with all those quality players, or?
That's a good question. That's an unbelievable topic, because look at the women's game. A number of the players are playing in the best leagues in the world. Hayley Rassel was at Real Madrid. You got players that, Caitlin Ford at Arsenal, Carly Quinn across at Arsenal. You got players at Man City with Mary Fowler, PSG. Whereas you look at the men's side and the Socceroos, how many of them are in the Premier League? I think there's one at playing at the moment. Just got promoted with Ipswich, Luongo. So naturally, if you're playing in the best leagues in the world, you become a better player. And I don't think the Socceroos quite have that. I don't think they have the production line. I think it's very scattered and from a youth age going up. I think the women's space is a lot easier because although there's a lot less players, I think it's potentially easier to find those players because of the volume. And I think the Matildas have got a big legacy, certainly of the current players and the turnover, and Claire Polkinghorne and players like that have left a huge impact on the game.
Surely the A-League hasn't helped being gone. Whatever the TV rights are, they've gone from Foxtel. You used to be able to put it on a Saturday night. There'd be 25,000 people at the Roar.
Yeah,
it just doesn't seem to have that same buzz. Are kids getting lost from sort of 12 to 15, or are they even going and playing for other countries? Because I know that most of the top talent does go over to the UK and Croatia and whatnot.
Yeah, obviously had a local there going to Croatia with Nikki. But I think it's the price of fees, believe it or not. And it's the fees are going higher and higher, rather than trying to find ways and initiatives to try and bring those fees down. But we don't get funding from the government. We don't get funding from the federation. We don't get funding from Football Australia. Actually, it's a bottom-up approach rather than top-down. Whereas other sports, it's top-down. So rugby league and rugby union, they get money from their governing bodies. Whereas we're struggling, and we're the highest participating sport in Australia. So if that changes, you see a change in maybe the value of buying the Foxtel or buying the A-League licensing. But also, I think a lot more locals are going to the local clubs to watch.
Yeah.
At City, we played Wanderers in the FA Cup a couple of weeks ago with Peter Gaffney, the head coach there, and new head coach at City. We had close to maybe 1,800 people there at a local club, and the atmosphere was unreal.
And that's I think when you're talking about that AFL and the league, it's more TV rights. They get a lot of the money from the TV. Because I look at football, obviously. Yeah, that's what I never understood, is it's pretty much the highest participation sport for juniors. Basketball is probably the same at the moment. Obviously, you don't have as many people playing, but they're losing a lot of kids because they don't have the money. It's expensive. I've been reading a lot of articles where I had this 15-year-old son, 6'9", wants to play for Queensland. I can't afford to send him away.
Yeah, and it's that fees. I think clubs need to be better in order to go and find sponsors, go and find initiatives to fundraise, or go and raise money from different projects such as holiday clinics, workshops, school partnerships. And I think that goes to basketball as well. I think basketball's seen that increase in players wanting to go across. I went to the Bullets as well, and it is a good atmosphere. It's a good vibe. It's a top sport. I think that's a sellout as well.
Yeah, well, they've just gone back to Boondall now, so But it's getting big here. But there's going to be a couple of players from Australia pretty much each year playing in the NBA, and that's how the Boomers obviously get better. Is they're playing those top competitions. The training's better. But as you said before, there was 15 years ago there was 10 Aussies playing in the Premier League. Now there's lucky to be one.
Yeah, that's something that needs to be improved. And the game across the world is getting harder and harder to break into. I think the standards are increasing tenfold. I think the sports science and everything else behind it is increasing to elevate players to a whole new level. It's almost like robots playing. You know, there's no ounce of fat on their bodies. They're incredibly robotic in terms of how many high-speed meters they can run and how they can do it repetitively. It's not just running 5-10Ks anymore. It's everything going into it. And I don't think Australia have quite caught up or kept up in the last 5-10 years.
How will they change it, do you think? Can they change it quickly?
Yeah, I think you look at the loss of the LIS program, where they had maybe more access and resources to that, where now it's all reliant on clubs to do, where clubs don't have the funds or the resources to support athletes to that high level. So maybe the infrastructure at A-League clubs needs to be better, more investment from owners. I know like Brisbane Roar have recently folded their academy, which is tough for young aspiring players because they all aspire to be at the Roar, being in Queensland at a professional club. So I think more investment needs to be put on show from these professional clubs in the A-League.
Yeah, maybe some of the ex-players that have gone to make it come back, or coaches. Hopefully Ange comes back and helps out, because obviously he's at the peak of his powers coaching over in Tottenham. But it'd be nice to have an Aussie come back and go, look, I'm really going to help you.
Yeah.
Based on the fact I just love the sport, I helped.
I think you get, it might be league or union, but you get all those ex-players there coaching for free at their local clubs. Yeah. Whereas, we don't have that in football. They expect a handout almost. It's like, how much are you going to pay me to do that? Whereas in union league, I'm there for the growth of the sport for long term, to give back to the sport that obviously gave them so much, where I think being in football, we can learn from that, most certainly.
100%. Before we go, Jake, you got a upcoming trip with the lads to Japan?
Yeah. Got their final itinerary today. We're playing, I think, 10, 12 games over in Japan. We're taking...
Japan, 10 or 12 games?
Yeah, taking a group of 9 to 10, 11-year-olds there.
How many kids are going?
We've got 18 children at the moment, with a trip of 45 personnel going. We're going to finish the tour, the trip, with a visit to Disney World as well. So it's a nice surprise for the kids. And
45 and 18 players.
It's going to be full on.
You got some staff. How many parents are there?
There's only 4 staff.
4 staff,
or 3 staff plus a sponsor, I suppose. Yeah. So it's 3 coaches.
Imagine that as a kid, looking back at that when you're 18, 19, you can't, obviously got to pay for it. Yes, you got to pay for it. You can't that's just unbelievable. That opportunity.
What an experience.
Yeah.
What an experience. And I can't wait from this culturally as well, learning about the Japanese ways and interacting with Japanese players, learning hopefully the language and how they communicate and how they connect. And I'm excited for it. We leave in, I think, 3 weeks, so it's not far away.
And they will all wear their City kits?
Of course,
yeah.
They'll represent the club and City and Brisbane quite well, so all in the Brisbane City kit.
Awesome, well, thanks so much for coming on board the arm wrestle, Jake. It's been a pleasure, mate, and learning about your past, obviously what you're doing with City and football. Recently engaged, so thanks again. And any of the fathers out there, what to drop into his door. We can PM the address for his favourite grapplers. Cheers, mate.
Thanks, Ross.
Thank you. Cheers.